This is entirely wrong. Autistic females. What we tend to find is more women and girls than ever are being discovered that they're autistic. In the past, it was assumed that autistic people were overwhelmingly men or boys. Many autistic people are expected to think, act and behave like neurotypical or neuronormative people, not social, stupid, etc. Imagine spending your whole life being told this is what you are. So if we're thinking about what the typical signs would be for autism in women and how they differ from more commonly recognised traits, the sort of things we're thinking about here is that. So an introduction to autistic females, and often why are they underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed in comparison to men. So when thinking about this, what we tend to find is more women and girls than ever are being discovered that they're autistic, particularly later on in life. Many had been missed or misdiagnosed due to outdated stereotypes about autism, but that's slowly changing. In the past, it was assumed that autistic people were overwhelmingly men or boys, and only very rarely were women or girls diagnosed, or they didn't think they had it. But this is entirely wrong. There are many women, girls and non-binary people on the autistic spectrum. Although we know much more about the experiences of autistic women and girls, society's understanding of autism is still very limited and outdated, and there's lots and lots of incorrect assumptions. Although autism research and professional practice are slowly catching up with this, and to the realities of autistic life for women and girls, many barriers to diagnosis still remain. And often this is related to, overshadowing by a woman's mental health needs, for example, and autism just hasn't been considered.
Harley Therapy, the UK's leading experts in therapy and mental health care, right here in London or online.
So if we're thinking about what the typical signs would be for autism in women and how they differ from more commonly recognised traits, the sort of things we're thinking about here is that autistic women might seem that they've got fewer social difficulties than autistic men and boys. But this could be, for example, or more likely, because they're masking their autistic traits. Though the stress of doing so causes incredible amount of anxiety and overwhelming emotions. For example, at school, autistic girls may be more likely to be part of a friendship group, and for this reason that teachers don't notice their differences and difficulties, but they will be masking. They might also be missed due to their academic achievement, which can also mask their difficulties that they face in all these other areas. Some of the core characteristics of autism are having repetitive behaviours and highly focused interests. Stereotypes examples of these include, rocking backwards and forwards, finger movements and a fascination with trains, for example. However, in autistic women and girls, these behaviours and interests may be similar to those of non-autistic women and girls, such as, twirling hair, reading books, liking Taylor Swift, and as such may go unnoticed despite the greater intensity or focus typical for autistic people. Lots of healthcare professionals and allied professionals can lack knowledge about autism and particularly around how autism presents in women and girls. This means women and girls are misdiagnosed with mental health issues, or their autistic traits might be missed because of the symptoms of other co-occurring conditions. Some tools used to diagnose autism are designed to identify autistic characteristics that may be more common in boys and men. So a lot of the criteria is based on boys and men. This means the process may not be as sensitive to the characteristics more commonly found in autistic women and girls. The key thing here, when you're doing an assessment, is unpicking the aspects, taking time to unpick and to see what's going underneath for these women and girls. We need to go forward in terms of breaking down these stereotypes because there's so many unique presentations. And I think by, increasing awareness and inclusivity across all different domains helps understanding and noticing signs of autism in women and girls. Okay, so what are some of the typical presentations that we see in autistic women and autistic girls? So if you just look at the following slide, and it can show you sort of the different presentations that autistic women experience. So how do autistic women and girls often mask their symptoms, and what are the consequences of this masking? The number one thing that comes to mind is burnout, but I can talk a bit about that in a moment. Masking autistic characteristics and suppressing your needs as an autistic person, your preferences, instincts, and coping mechanisms, such as stimming, can result in a number of challenges, such as distress behaviour, including autistic meltdowns and autistic shutdowns, which is often only expressed when it can't be held any longer or when the individuals feel safe enough in their environment to do so, such as when they get home from school. It can result in mental and physical exhaustion, which can lead to significant burnout. And that burnout can last for weeks and months. It can have an impact on your mental health difficulties, such as it could increase suicidal ideation, for example, or cause depression. It can lead to isolation and the feeling of being disconnected from other people. And it can also lead to being more vulnerable to abuse. So if you blend in by overriding your reactions and going along with what other people want, this may not keep you safe in certain situations, such as sexual interactions. There can be a loss of sense of self, as well as significant low self-esteem and confidence. Many autistic people are expected to think, act and behave like neurotypical or neuronormative people. Their difference is often hidden. Their behaviours, responses are often misinterpreted as negative, such as, they're being oppositional, lazy, not social, stupid, etc. Imagine spending your whole life being told this is what you are, so their choices are taken away. And I've met some autistic individuals that didn't even realise that there was a choice. No one told them. And often when they come to see me for therapy, we're looking at choices. Do you choose your breakfast in the morning? Or do you have it because that's what you've been informed by TikTok or reading an article somewhere, or because that's what your partner said you should eat, or a parent? So often, autistic girls and women shape themselves, almost morph into what others expect them to be. And if you do that over a long protracted period of time, you can often be confused and think, well, who am I? What do I like? It's not unusual for autistic girls and women to adopt certain, if you want, roles or a character or be in a certain way in different situations. And often this can cause a lot of distress. So if we're thinking about autistic women and girls, how can they best, be supported and empowered to embrace their strengths as well as their identity? So one thing that I often signpost individuals to is looking at, autistic communities in person or online, and various support groups, as well as different companies that help autistic individuals meet other autistic individuals, whether it's on a one-to-one basis or in a group. And this can be really helpful in terms of understanding themselves, as well as gaining understanding from their neuronormative peers, partners, parents, friends, this sort of embracing the autistic presentation, embracing being an autistic woman. So in terms of moving forward for autistic girls and women, what we need to consider their autistic needs. And how do we do this? Awareness, inclusivity, and my most important thing is understanding. There needs to be understanding from their neuronormative peers and understanding across different environments, whether this is educational, occupational, friends, family. So there needs to be this understanding and awareness. Thank you.
Subscribe for more insights from the experts at Harley Therapy, and don't miss our next video.